Natter, I'm Mark Steele, and across the tables from me should be Jenny Steele, but unfortunately she is otherwise occupied at the moment. Yeah, it's all very scary, isn't it? Yeah, and I'm not going to start any rumours, because that's just wrong, but you can make your own rumours up, dear listener. But however, I am going to start with an apology. We didn't make it on the wireless last week, which meant we broke the space-time continuum, and
it's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it.
I'm not even making up. When we should have been joining you on this fine radio station, whether it's Bow Radio or Fatcham Town Radio, Joe Biden, the current president of the United States, ducked out to the presidential race. It's been a crazy fortnight, hasn't it? And we've also, on top of that, got a brand new country park in Edwinstowe that caught fire after 2 days. It been open 2 days and somebody set fire to it. I mean, on top of that, we also had disaster striking as well. I mean, you can't describe it any other way, could you? A patch to a security tool that's supposed to protect your PC, stop your PC from working, taking out airlines, hospitals, you name it. We've broke the space-time continuum. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Although the loss of Kay Burley on Sky News didn't raise too many complaints, although we probably have done less damage just letting the bad guys in. But the fact that antivirus problem spread so quickly, I'm impressed. I'm not even mad, I'm impressed. But then, I do have a secret to reveal, dear listener. I know what caused the problem. Tying all these things together, Joe Biden, fire in the country park, crowd strike, all I can say is Illuminati confirmed. That's all I'm going to say on it. Although now I've said it, I probably won't make it to the next show. This will probably be our last one. Although on a more positive note, the postbag has arrived, and last time I was asking about those moments when somebody is rewarded for failure, and Sam Killett's been in touch saying, my story is I saw a dog snapping at someone's heels on a walk. Only for the same dog I would see barking at me when I passed the house where it lived with its owner. To be given some chicken and sausages, especially because it would shut the dog up. So the dog makes noise, it's given chicken or sausages, and it shuts up. I see what's going on here. It's almost a reverse Pavlov. You know, the dogs hear the ringing bell and they start salivating because they think they're going to eat. This is reverse. Dog starts making a noise, so human starts offering food. That, according to Sam, is the very definition of being rewarded for failure and what would otherwise be bad behaviour. I'll give you that, Sam. You are spot on there. And in just a moment, we'll chat about something that has quietly disappeared. So you've heard about all the big things that have disappeared in the news and they went with a bang, but something has quietly disappeared. I'll talk with you about it after this one from Lisa Stansfield.
I don't know where my baby is.
I dare you to name any other Lisa Stansfield song. Go on, I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. Yeah, you can't think of one, can you? All around the world, it's A Wee Natter from Bow Radio and Fatcham Town Radio 2. And I can't even remember how this came up in conversation, but somebody mentioned the other day that we don't buy road atlases anymore. It used to be the sort of thing, whether it's an A to Z or one of those big old, like A3, A2 size books that sat in the boot of your car, and you only ever got it out at the roadside when you got completely and utterly lost. They were terrible for getting around, but they've just completely disappeared. And even worse was the replacement has also disappeared as well. You know that GPS that you used to buy as a box, and then you get it on a little sticky mount to go onto your windscreen, and you'd have to take the sticky mount off in case somebody thought, there's a GPS in there, and they try and break into your car and nick it like it was a valuable stereo in the 80s or something like that. You remember those? The thing I remember is the GPSs were rubbish. They just about got you down the motorway, but if you needed to find somewhere that was in the countryside, they just couldn't cope with it, and they'd take you down like what would literally be mud tracks. I don't know how they became so popular. It was one of those things, but it got me wondering, what else has quietly disappeared? Yeah, there's an interesting one. What else has just quietly disappeared from our lives? Anything pop into mind for you? Because another one that's slowly happening, orange streetlights. You might even have some still in your local area. You just wander down the street when it's dark and you still get that sort of orange glow out of the streetlights. And it used to make, seeing things in colour a bit tricky, but you can at least get around. Nowadays, it's all that brilliant white LED stuff, and we've got some on our street that are just the right angle where if I don't close the curtains properly, I get blinded in the middle of the night trying to fall asleep. I wouldn't have done that with the old orange streetlights. It would just been gently, almost rocking me to sleep. And yet the other one that pops to mind for me is the breakfast wrap at McDonald's. You remember that, right? They've tried to bring it back, but they have totally screwed it up. They brought it back, but they brought it back with the wrong kind of eggs. And I am still mourning its loss all these years later. It disappeared over COVID and then came back in this, half-baked version. I'm still mourning its loss. I'm still waiting for them to correct it and bring back the full original breakfast wrap. So I'm going to open this up to you, dear listener. What do you think has disappeared without a trace? And we just didn't notice. It's only when you sit there going, oh yeah, whatever happened to... I'd love you to tell me about it. Give me a call, 01623 888 730. You can text 073 79 78 4900, or you can email requests at bowradio.co.uk and tell me about those things that have just disappeared. Blame that one for Hank, Manfred Mann, Blinded by the Light. And before that, Def Leppard with Rocket. You hear Def Leppard songs all the time. Rocket, not quite so often. And talking about things that have quietly disappeared, Vicky Fairweather's been in touch with a few of them, including memory sticks, because you can just share things by the cloud now. Yeah, I genuinely used to have a big pack of memory sticks. I think I've still got them in a drawer somewhere, probably full of files that I've not touched for, it must be going on years now. And we just stopped using them. We just share things over the internet now. The internet's got better. And she also mentioned the heaps of CDs that we used to find in our rooms of our homes. It's all streaming music now. Yeah, I know exactly what you're on about there, because the first MP3 player that I ever got had a grand total of 16 megabytes on it, which meant, unless you wanted it to sound like it was tinny metal robot music, you got about 3 songs on it or something like that. And I know you're not supposed to break... Well, can you break the fourth wall on radio? But I'm going to break the fourth wall here. And we're all computerised nowadays. And we play all our songs and things off the computer. But when I first started in radio, it must be about 20 years ago, I learned how to do all this radio stuff in a studio that was all CD players, mini discs, tape, and even records as well. So you'd have to spin the vinyl back. I think half a turn or a quarter turn, depending on the model, because otherwise you get a noise when you started the music. That's a proper geeky music thing that you don't have to care about nowadays. And talking about technology, I'm thankful you don't have to care about nowadays. Henk has just mentioned floppy disks, which had a habit of getting corrupted and you'd lose your data, and that was rather annoying, wasn't it?
Covers versus originals.
Yes, it's time for you to make a very, very important decision where you help us choose the song that we'll be playing about 7:30 on this fine radio station, whether it happens to be Bow Radio or Fashion Sound Radio, it doesn't matter. But you will be getting a great song at 7:30, and it's a decision between a cover and an original, or more... I guess we're bending the definition of covers here, but we're going to run with it anyway. Our original option is Patrice Rushen, Forget Me Nots. Our cover... it's Will Smith, Men in Black. It is your decision which you prefer to hear, Forget Me Nots or Men in Black. Give me a call, 01623 888 730. You can text 073 79 78 4900, or you can email requests at bowradio.co.uk and tell me which version of the song you'd rather hear on this fine radio show. How could you ever be sad after this one? The Lighthouse Family and Lifted. It's A Wee Natter from Bow Radio and Fatcham Town Radio 2.
Covers versus originals.
I know it's a huge amount of responsibility for you to take on. It's a bit scary evening, but we need you to decide between a cover version of a song and an original version of a song. And this week, you are choosing between Forget Me Nots, Patrice Rushen, and Will Smith's Men in Black. And a couple of you have been in touch voting already, including Hank saying, I like the 82 original Forget Me Nots, Patrice Rushen, and Vicky Fairweather asking for Forget Me Nots as well. But the numbers, when we're looking at this vote tally, are still incredibly close. Every vote counts. You've got one more song to get in touch and let me know which song you prefer to hear, whether it's Forget Me Nots or Men in Black. You are making a decision. Taking us back to days when it was magazines that were the way we lost our innocence there. Centerfold J. Giles Band.
Bow Radio would like to thank all our sponsors. We couldn't be here without you.
Indeed, we have to give special thanks to Property Drain Check Mansfield, Ollerton and Booton Town Council, Notts County Council, Solar Frame Goldthorpe, Worksop Freemasons, Freemasons of Bassett Law, ABIB Motors Tuxford, and Sherwood Grange Care Centre as well.
Covers versus originals.
You have been making a very difficult decision choosing between the cover, which is Will Smith, Men in Black, very catchy song, or the original, which is Patrice Rushen, Forget Me Nots. Your votes have all been tallied up. I've even counted them twice because I'm not very good at that counting thing. And it turns out you have decided that on this fine radio station, at this fine moment, the song that we'll be playing will be... Forget Me Nots, of course it is. And on that note, we're going to skip forward many, many years. Yeah, I know that's surfing to do Men in Black, but we'll be doing it after Patrice Rushen. Find out why after the song. As chosen by you, Patrice Rushen, Forget Me Nots, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention also getting in touch with voting for that one was, of course, Monica Eriksson.
A Wee Natter with Mark Steele on Bow Radio.
And we will indeed be going forward in time after this one from The Killers. Asking the philosophical questions that are too much for this time on a Sunday night. Are we human or are we dancer? I think it can be both. It's Killers on A Wee Natter from Bow Radio and Fatcham Town Radio 2. And I know it's too many years away for most of us, but have you considered what you'll do, the very first thing you'll do when you retire? Yes, it's a bit of a weird question, but I expect by the time I get to retirement age, retirement won't be a thing anymore. I'm expecting my pension to just about cover the deposit on a Fredo. I think that's probably what we'll end up with. But in an ideal world, I'll probably finally get a chance to check out Homes Under the Hammer, daytime TV that people keep telling me all about. I hear it's quite addictive and has a banging soundtrack. But the reason I'm asking about what you're going to be doing and what I'm going to be doing when we reach the retirement is because it turns out there is an 86-year-old lollipop man. We mean as in the school crossing person, not as in a man made of lollipops. But he's 86-year-old, finally getting around to retiring. How do you think he's going to celebrate? You're probably imagining he's going to sit there with whatever's original, daytime TV, bit of countdown, that sort of thing. No, not at all. He is off for a mad week in Benidorm. I mean, there are worse ways to go out than blacked out in a villa, surrounded by empty tinnies and a roommate you never met before. But I suppose it does make a change from Countdown and Elvis albums, doesn't it? That's a bit of Shakespeare's Sister. I don't know why I say it's a bit of, because it's usually the whole band, but there we go. And stay. So we now from Bow Radio and Fatcham Town Radio 2, where the conversation around retirement seems to have really kicked off, including the accusation that sometimes I look like a robot. And to be honest with you, that's not the first time I've heard that accusation. I once picked up the nickname Machine because of how I eat a sandwich. I'm not making that up at all. They just thought, yeah, you look like a robot eating that sandwich. But a couple of you have been in touch about what you'll do when you retire, including Hank saying, I know what I'll do. I will travel the world, travelling to Crete, South Africa, Indonesia, Australia, Aruba, Bonaire and Krakow. Why all these? Because I've got friends there. You're quite the jet setter there, Hank. And also Pond Life 21 saying, I've already done it. Travel, garden, fundraise for charity, spend time with my family. I guess there's nothing else you could ask for there, is there? If you're going to do these things, that's quite an enjoyable set to do. Though I still suspect that I will end up eventually watching Homes Under the Hammer when I retire. I don't think they'll stop making it. Even if BBC One doesn't exist, they will still be making it when I finally get around to retirement. And on a slightly different note, coming back to the current, something, well, really sort of kicked off this week. It's all been very controversial. Yeah, find out what that's all about after this one from REM. It's Shiny Happy People on A Wee Natter from Bow Radio and Fatcham Town Radio 2. going to use one of my cheesy local radio DJ facts on this one. I don't know why I put the voice on when I talk about local radio cheesy DJ facts, or whatever the words are. But if I remember correctly, this was supposed to be used for the TV show Friends, before they went with the theme tune that you know and love nowadays. R.E.M. Shiny Happy People, it's A Wee Natter on Bow Radio and Fatcham Town Radio 2. And I'm going to hold my hands up, dear listener, and admit on this next topic that I'm going to be talking about, I have not got all the facts. I have not had the opportunity yet to see it in my own eyes, but I'm going to mention it anyway. It is, of course, the opening ceremony of the Olympics. It all kicked off this weekend over in Paris, and from the little clips I've seen, because they've taken the whole video down. It was on the internet, it was on YouTube, but they've taken it down and you can't watch it anymore because it's all very controversial. But from the clips I've seen, what I can say is I'm very happy to hear that the Anglian TV horse still has a gig nowadays. Nice to see it going down the river there when it's disappeared quite a long time ago. But one of the other bits I've heard, amongst all the religious controversies and things like that, is apparently when they were introducing the countries, coming in and going, there's Great Britain, which we're complaining about, and you got that wrong. It's Scotland, England, Ireland, we're all splitting up. But no, I'm joking about that one. But they're announcing all the countries coming in. Apparently, the announcer announced South Korea, the Republic of Korea, as North Korea. Could you imagine if you're that person there going, and there is the North Korean lot, and then you realise that you're not seeing a sea of red. And the problem is, when you do that, you're doing it at a level where the entire world is watching. If that happened to me, I'm sure if it happened to you, dear listener, but if it happened to me, I'd want the world to swallow me up at that point. There's no coming back from that one, is there? CCR asking the obvious, have you ever seen the rain? Well, of course I've seen the rain. I live in Britain, it gets a bit wet around here. And before that, Beyonce with Love on Top. It's A Wee Natter from Bow Radio and Fatcham Town Radio 2. We're a little bit earlier, we were asking about those things that just sort of quietly disappeared. And get in touch with Stephen and Paula saying, what about Traffic Master? That quietly disappeared, wasn't it? Yeah, that takes me back when I worked as a broadcast engineer. We part of the networks I used to help look after carried the Traffic Master data, and I remember seeing little boxes on windy hilltops and thinking, yeah, I never had a car posh enough to get the live traffic data, but I was sitting there thinking it's a lot of effort for something that doesn't work half the time. But yeah, it quietly disappeared. He also saying, greetings from Stephen and Paula, it's my birthday on Tuesday and we're going down to Torquay for a few days to chill out and celebrate. Oh, of all the places to go, that's a fantastic one. Love it. Lots of love to you both. I'll pass the love on to Jenny. Unfortunately, she's not with me tonight. I'm Mark Steele. Thank you for joining me. And they're all saying we've been listening to the show from the car, heading down the M5. Yeah, and probably in a few miles you're going to run out of motorways, and it'll just be a very slow trail from there. But when you get to the other end, it is totally worth it. And talking of totally worth it, we're doing Mission Music for Freedom after this one. Stay with me till dawn.
Is this a game you play?
Oh, when's the last time you heard that one? Yeah, it wasn't yesterday, was it?
Mission Musical Freedom.
I still can't ever get over the fact we managed to get the actual devil to voice that one for us. I'll tell you, organising it was a proper pain. So many hours spent on the Ouija board with family members that we pretend to have forgotten ever existed. But anyway, the whole point of Mission Musical Freedom is that the bosses at radio stations like to limit the songs that we play to a selection of good songs, but it's very limited, and there's a lot of good stuff that never gets onto the wireless. They've got these controls, they've got these strict rules, and the boss actually stands there at the door checking every record I bring in to make sure I'm not bringing one of the nasty ones in, that he doesn't let it happen. However, we have dug a sneaky wee tunnel into the music library, which is just full of records, and we've brought one back. We've managed to sneak it past the bosses, and this week, because the Olympics are on, we're going for a song that featured in a movie that touched on the Olympics. Yeah, you might even have an idea which one it's going to be. Of course, by a certain Greek composer that I can never pronounce. We are going to go from the the theme tune from the 80s film Chariots of Fire. Again, when's the last time you heard this one? Well, I guess other than the 2012 Olympics. It's not that long ago, was it? Only 12 years. Keeping the sport theme going, but bringing us crashing down to earth by saying we could have been the heavyweight champion of the world, Reverend and the Makers, and before that, the theme tune from the film Chariots of Fire. And I'm sure you've seen that scene from Chariots of Fire. Even if you haven't seen the film, you will have seen the scene where they're running down the beach. You know exactly the one I'm on about, don't you? Yeah, you know what I'm on about. Well, I've actually ran down that beach. It's West Sands in St Andrews, and let me tell you, it doesn't quite have the same feel to it when you're doing it in the middle of winter, and it's absolutely slinging it down with rain as well.
The Super Shonky Sunday Quiz.
A Wee Natter with Jenny and Mark Steele on Bow Radio.
It is indeed the Super Shonky Sunday Quiz, the top quality quiz where it is so good we only have one question and no prizes. Yeah, we're doing it brilliantly, aren't we? But anyway, it's your chance to stretch out the old grey matter and prove that you're at Olympic level with your quizzing knowledge. And this week, asking a little question about the movies. Yeah, we were on movies earlier, we're back on movies again. Asking, who wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, The Magical Car? I guess that's a book rather than a movie, but yeah, who wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, The Magical Car? If you think you know, give me a call, 01623 888 730. You can send a text, 073 79 78 49 00, or you can email requests at bowradio.co.uk and tell me who wrote that book. Randy Crawford and the Crusaders, Street Life. As you can tell, not the 12-inch version, or we'd probably still be here at midnight. Still a cracking song if you've ever heard the full version of it. Although it did get me wondering why we never called 12-inch versions foot-long songs.
The Super Shonky Sunday Quiz.
A Wee Natter with Jenny and Mark Steele on Bow Radio.
It is the most important quiz on a Sunday night. Just don't let the people down the pub doing the quiz down there let you tell you that I said that. I didn't mention it at all. But this is the more important quiz in my opinion. And we're asking that fun question, who wrote the book Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? A couple of you have been in touch, including Hank with the correct answer, and Pond Life 21 with the correct answer. If you think you know, do get in touch. You have got one more song to figure it out, and I'll give you a great wee song to do it with as well. It's the Eagles and Hotel California. I'd be surprised if you didn't know this was the Eagles and Hotel California, but it's entirely possible. This may be the very first time you've ever heard that song, and if it is, I am properly jealous of you. In just a moment, we'll be talking about something that was popular 60 years ago, but is basically extinct. But first, let's find out how you did with the Super Shonky Sunday Quiz.
Bow Radio would like to thank all our sponsors. We couldn't be here without you.
Indeed, we have to give special thanks to Property Drain Check Mansfield, Ollerton and Booton Town Council, Notts County Council, Solar Frame Goldthorpe. I don't know why I trip over that one. I'll need to figure it out. Workshop Freemasons, Freemasons of Bassett Law, ABIB Motors Tuxford, and Sherwood Grange Care Centre as well.
The Super Shonky Sunday Quiz.
A Wee Natter with Jenny and Mark Steele on Bow Radio.
So it was a tough old question. Did you manage to figure out who wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, The Magical Car? Well, Stephen has been in touch asking if it was Roald Dahl. I'm sorry, Stephen. That is not the correct answer. If you wanted then the answer was, and you'll hardly believe this, Ian Fleming. No, seriously, the same guy that wrote the James Bond books wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I don't get it either. So, to help us puzzle our way through how that happened in the world, I suppose I better play you one of the best James Bond themes ever from Aha. It's The Living Daylights on A Wee Natter from Bow Radio and Fatcham Town Radio 2. nights. It's A Wee Natter on Bow Radio and Faction Town Radio 2, where Hank has been in touch with his finest Norwegian, which I'll admit I put through Google Translate because I don't speak any Norwegian, and apparently it's always good to hear English people listening to Aha. Yes, we listen to a lot of Aha, both in the 80s and nowadays, and I am informed that Morton Harkett was quite a looker in the day. So yeah, he's quite popular around these parts. And talking about back in the day, there is one name that was popular 60 years ago. It's going back a wee bit in time, 60 years ago, but is basically now extinct. What do you think it could be? It's not Dave. They just appear middle-aged from birth. That's just what happens. Admittedly, I was looking at a news article from Queensland in Australia to find this out, but it's not Chaz Wazza either. It's a girl's name and was the most popular in 1963, which means it's not Edith, it's not Doris or anything like that. Apparently, it's Karen. Have you got any ideas why Karen might not be a popular name nowadays? Well, apparently it's associated with being the sort of person that asks to speak to the manager. And at birth, that's going to be the parents, isn't it? If you're literally just born right this moment, you ask to speak to the manager, it's going to be the parents. And they're not going to want to put up with that. So they're not going to call you Karen. But it got me thinking that we need to bring back some of the properly old-fashioned names. Who wouldn't want to see a primary school in about 5-6 years' time, full of Ediths and Dorises and Melvins and things like that? It'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? It's one of those songs you almost have to shout the title, Panama from Van Halen. And before that, Georgia Moroder and Phil Oakey from Oomin League, together in Electric Dreams, which is one of those where the song is better than the film. I mean, the film's alright. It's quite watchable, bit dated nowadays, but yeah, I prefer the song to the film. I don't know about you, but that's the way I lean. And looking back to the Super Shonky Sunday quiz, which we did a little bit earlier, I do have to grovel and apologise because I forgot to do a for Cheryl, who also got the correct answer. I just happened to notice it a little bit late. Sorry, Cheryl. I'll try not to do that again. I won't make promises because I know I'll screw up. I'll try my best to make sure it doesn't happen. And on a slightly different note, something a little bit strange has been happening off the coast of Brazil. We'll find out what it is after this one from Elton John. He's Kissing the Bride on A Wee Natter from Bow Radio and Faction Town Radio 2. Of all the wedding conventions that he could have broken, I'm surprised it's Kiss the Bride that he wants to do. Elton John on A Wee Natter from Bow Radio and Faction Town Radio 2. And I said there was something a bit weird going off the coast of Brazil. Well, scientists have been out there swimming around with sharks. Yeah, that's not the sort of thing that you could pay me enough money to turn into a job. It's just as much as I like a bit of excitement in my life, that's just a little bit too much excitement for me. But anyway, they've been investigating sharks that have been swimming off the coast of Brazil, and it turns out the sharks have been ingesting cocaine, as in the drug. Seriously, they've been found it in the blood of these sharks. So there are coked up sharks off the coast of Brazil. You're never getting me in that water. Although, my mind has gone straight to movies, and there are two movies that pop into my mind when I'm thinking drugged up sharks. One of them would be a version of Scarface made entirely from sharks, and it's something that I'm going to go to the Arts Film Council of Britain and try and get funding to go and produce. I don't know how far we'll get, but we'll try and make that happen. The other one I was thinking is you could do a remake of Jaws, but if they're on cocaine, you'd have to significantly speed up the theme tune. It'd be as the shark's coming in to bite your leg off. There's a thought for you.
You know our love was
Heart with Alone, and before that, Chicago saying, you, dear listener, are the inspiration. And before that, we're having a wee chat about sharks and getting cocaine in their blood. And one of the things that Vicky Fairweather points out is that sharks hardly ever attack humans. On the other hand, humans are responsible for killing about 100 million sharks a year. That number sounds incredibly high, Vicky. I'm taking your word for it that the number is really that high. And on a slightly different note, I did realise we talked about the Olympics, and if Celine Dion was performing live. She doesn't do that very often, so I thought, well, we'll get some Celine Dion on, and that's the way it is on A Wee Natter. Probably the most upbeat Celine Dion song I could think of. That's the way it is, or that's the way love is. It's A Wee Natter from Bo Radio, and well, if we're talking Celine Dion songs, I will admit I'm a bit of a sucker for a Jim Steinman song. I only did one or two with her, but yeah, I'm a bit of a sucker for that sort of thing. But we needed something upbeat, so there we go. That's the way it is. And on that note, that's about it, unfortunately. Yeah, they do have to cut things to an end. But if you're thinking sort of positively, we will be back next week. Same time, same place. But if you want your little hit of joy before that, then do join Malk tomorrow from 4 p.m. right here on Bo Radio.